Miss Goss Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, a.k.a. deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Trump.
Harming farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care.
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
Whoa! Whoa! Showcases are next. We'll be right back.
Hey, shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forget to give the video a like and absolutely subscribe if you haven't already. I am Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, where we highlight those unique individuals going above and beyond to make society worse. You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
I want to talk to the manager.
Hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jasmine Crockett sent you something. Have you checked your mailbox yet?
There are 1,524,524 and 481. This is over 1 million, 1.5. Mr. Ron Kendall is the executive chairman emeritus at the National.
Why is MTG supporting Musk and Doge and the slashing of Medicaid, Social Security offices, libraries, and more? This is outrageous from Sarah. Well, Sarah, unfortunately, you're being brainwashed by the news that you're watching.
This is coming from someone who clearly reads on a first grade level, so I don't know why she's trying to clown Sarah.
Look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
I mean, I'll be honest. That video was A1 from Jasmine Crockett. That was A1. We should send that to Linda McMahon. She would approve. In fact, in light of the absence of the Department of Education, that might be teaching tape. Right there. That might be teaching tape. And, you know, I would say that was the worst thing I've seen you associated with this year, but this year has also given us Butch Body Bigot. So.
You Butch Body Bigot! You Butch Body Bigot!
I don't know what to tell you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but you know, one thing you could maybe start with is checking out some more of her timeline, because you can learn a few more things.
So, Miss Goss Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, a.k.a. deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Trump.
Harming farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care.
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
Thank you so much. This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade. Or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over 30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee.
And we are in a crisis. And they are pretending that the solution is going to be cutting everything, that those of us that make this country actually go is the solution. Right now, we're cutting jobs as it relates to the federal government. Right now, because of the failed policies around tariffs, we know that we are looking at losing plants. They said that was going to bring plants. They just announced that we had 2 auto dealers that were going to shut down approximately 40,000 jobs. As they then go after NIH, we know that in the state of Alabama, the largest employer in the state of Alabama is the University of Alabama. They are looking at losing jobs because they won't have research dollars. The only thing that they are doing is hurting us. It is the reason, if we're going to talk about numbers and mandates, it is the reason that the only person in recent modern times to have the lowest approval ratings at their 100-day mark is the same person the first time they were in and now this time. It is time for us to get serious and talk about what will grow our economy, what will bring more money in, what will make sure that people can move up from working poor to middle class and maybe even reach this higher level that so many of y'all listen to, this upper echelon, this rich level, because that is what is supposed to set us apart in this country. We are supposed to live in a country where everyone has an opportunity to go from rags to literally riches. And so I am asking my colleagues to start looking out for the people that elected them. And this is one way that we can do it, by supporting this amendment of Ms. Lee. And with that, I will yield.
Now, one thing that Jasmine Crockett said is she would like my colleagues to start looking out for the people that elected them. And another thing I can ask of the people that elected them to start looking out for themselves and one another, because there was an interesting section of Jasmine Crockett's Instagram Live when we left her last where things took a turn. And you know what? Why don't we go back there? This is where we left her.
So again, like all those people that are saying that they have some sort of buyer's remorse about their votes because they never thought that this was going to impact them and that kind of stuff or whatever. Here's the reality. When we go out and make votes, instead of going out and deciding that you're going to vote for the person that is going to be quote unquote perfect, what you need to be doing is looking for somebody that at least has some common decency. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, I can tell you, if it was somebody else that was in office other than him as the president of the United States, maybe we would have had a different result. But they are so afraid. They are afraid to do what is right. Again, I keep trying to tell people, this isn't about partisanship. This is about right versus wrong.
This amendment was not introduced because it's theoretical. No. It is actually happening that U.S. citizens are being deported. Not just one, not just two, multiple U.S. citizens are being deported, detained and deported by ICE.
Now, that was something that just on the face of it, we could have predicted, because one thing that we talked about prior to the election was that this was never going to be a perfect process. But here's the thing. When you have people that are deported erroneously, or when you have people that are U.S. citizens that actually have proof of citizenship, or who, if afforded due process, could give you the justification for them being here, and you don't take that under advisement and rectify that mistake, well, then the deportation of those citizens takes a little bit more of a sinister turn now, does it? I have to look at that in a different way, because anything else would be, quite frankly, absurd.
Homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said homegrowns are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places.
Not just one, not just two, multiple U.S. citizens are being deported, detained and deported by ICE. Now, here's the thing. I introduced into the record the document, the policy document, the law that ICE cannot detain and deport U.S. citizens. That's actually the law. So it's illegal what they're doing. And Ted Lieu, our colleague, said, it's batshit crazy that you got to introduce this amendment. He said that on the record. And I said, you know what? It is batshit crazy. But the reason I have to do this
is because they don't follow the law.
Is because they're not following the law. And then I asked the Republicans on the other side, you were elected by U.S. citizens, by constituents.
Right.
And you are now saying, if you vote no on this amendment, you are saying that you're not going to stand up for the constituents, the U.S. citizens
that you work for,
that sent you here,
right?
And it was just stunning.
The ones that pay your check.
Now I did notice that some of them just didn't come to the vote because they didn't want to be on the record. They didn't want to vote.
Some of them skipped out on the vote.
They skipped out on the vote. So you should check the record. And if you have a Republican that represents you wherever you are, you should call them up and say, do you support Trump's ability to use ICE illegally to detain and deport U.S. citizens? Because if you don't, you should be speaking out right now. And if you do, we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And by the way, this would probably be a good opportunity to shed light on that open air dead mic situation, that audio that was picked up between Donald Trump and President Bukele of El Salvador about homegrowns.
I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that.
Don't think that didn't go unnoticed. So what we have here is an administration that has not adhered to the law or to the Constitution, that has deported people erroneously, that has deported U.S. citizens, that has saw fit not to rectify it, and made statements about homegrowns being next. And somehow that is something that is not at the forefront of every American's mind. That is why this is Who Raised Y'all. Now, you might be asking yourself why that would be the case. That's actually a question that I don't have to ask, because we know.
And honestly, I'm already at the point that we are in a whole hell of a lot of trouble, to be perfectly honest. And the other thing that Pramila is too nice to say is when you looked across that aisle, for those that sit on judiciary that decided to take this vote, the reason that they can sit there and take this vote and not even blink is because so many of them sit in privilege. When I look across that aisle, I don't know. I think we have one person that may have a little bit of melanin. For the most part, they don't. And so.
Speak on it. Speak on it. Y'all knew it. Y'all knew it. Y'all good. Y'all good. Y'all knew exactly what it was before she said it.
What we know is that there's so much racial profiling that is taking place. There are certain people that maybe because they have an accent, you want to just say, oh, well, that can't be a U.S. citizen. That is not true. There are certain people, because of the complexion that they have, that is who is being targeted. So you know what? They are not concerned because they know the quote unquote types of U.S. citizens that are going to be directly impacted by this.
Now, here's the problem. Here is the problem. And I bring this up as many times as is necessary. The reason why they say, or the reason why Dr. King said, and everybody constantly repeats, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, is because the people that engage in injustice don't exactly lay down and adhere to the rules of injustice, okay? Injustice is something that by its very nature is wanton and subject to the whims of the people that are engaging in the injustice. So how you can feel comfortable, whoever you are or wherever you are, when there is justice going on, quite frankly, is silly. And in this particular instance, we've already seen what's befallen a great number of Latinos that thought that for whatever reason they were protected. One thing we almost never feel is a level of protection, and that just comes from 400 years of we got to know you. But to you guys, the MAGAs out there who for whatever reason thought that you were protected, you probably thought you would be protected from the economic ramifications of the Trump agenda now, didn't you? The farmers thought that they would be protected. The veterans thought that they would be protected. The elderly thought that they would be protected. The women thought that they would be protected. The children, who had no say in this whatsoever, you told them that they would be protected and everything would be perfectly fine. Well, that school is going to be mighty cold come the wintertime if they don't get that grant from the Department of Education that just got shut down. Why you thought you would be protected is the FAFO season that goes back to last year. Why you still think that you would be protected is what we talking about now.
Now, I got this legend, and I don't know if he want to say anything. He over here trying to eat. But what you got to say for the people, Mr. Nadler?
Jasmine, didn't we already address this with Eric Swalwell? Don't go to people in the middle of dinner. Like, why? I mean, come on. At least, you know what? At least he not eating no pork chops or nothing like that. That could have been ugly. That could have been. Give him a minute.
Okay, yeah, he eating. He say no.
I'm ready.
Okay. New York in the building.
We in New York understand, most of us, constitutional law. We understand constitutional rights, and that's why we only have 5 Republicans.
New York, that's 5 too many, y'all. It's 5 too many, New York.
A few of whom we'll probably defeat, maybe all of them next year.
Anybody heard from George Santos lately? Huh? No? Well, put some money on his books. I'm just playing. Don't put no money on his books. Matter of fact, make sure he don't got a cell phone, because I hear he pen paling out here. Let me find out George Santos on Love After Lockup. Y'all better not.
And to our fearless leader. I feel like I've been with him my whole congressional career. That's because I have, actually. What do you have to say?
Well, first of all, hello to all the friends of Jasmine Crockett out there.
Now, Jamie Raskin, come on, you just heard all the love to New York guy. How about some love for my state of Maryland? Man, I love me some Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett, that is quite a duo. Y'all talk about them in the comments all of the time. Y'all better put some respect on Jamie Raskin's name.
Doing a fantastic job for everybody. Look, the first 2 votes have got to be read together. The first one, we said, okay, nobody should be deported from the country without due process. They refused.
Where is due process found?
Due process is found in the 5th Amendment to the Constitution.
Constitution, y'all.
And what does due process mean? It means, like, before they deprive you of your life, your liberty, or your property, you get to hear what the charges are against you. You get to put on your evidence, as Jasmine Crockett has done as a lawyer and as a member of Congress. There's got to be some structure to it, so it's fair, right? There's got to be a neutral fact finder, right? Who decides, all right, that's all we're saying.
And hopefully prevents these mistakes.
So before you get sent out of the country, there's got to be due process. There's got to be a fair hearing, right? And our colleagues refused to vote for that, despite the fact that the Supreme Court just said in a 9-0 decision that there's got to be. And that includes everybody on that Supreme Court. That's pretty incredible that all 9 of them would actually say, yeah, we agree. There's got to be due process.
Now, about that Supreme Court, and by the way, this is a video that is coming. I just talked about this on my live last week, about that Supreme Court that saw a 9-0 decision get ignored by the administration. The same administration headed by a man they decided to give immunity. Now, one thing we always say is that pick-me behavior never ends well. So let me get this straight. You gave that man immunity, which gave him all of the chest puffing that he needed not to obey the law, and by the way, not to leave office, because he has that immunity as long as he's there, right? We'll get to that. But you gave him immunity thinking that your verdicts and your opinions would still hold the same weight. Now you see a 9-0 opinion go ignored. Guess who no longer needs to be sent all the gifts and bennies and flued out like an Instagram baddie like they were doing to Clarence Thomas? Guess who? Guess whose opinion is no longer holding the same weight that it used to? You did that to yourselves.
And the last time I checked, the Constitution, that's supposed to be the highest law that we have in the land.
Supreme law of the
That's what I
land.
thought.
Not Donald
It's
Trump. Right?
constitutional professor, y'all.
So the first one says, okay, we said you can't deport people without due process. The Republicans said no. The second one, Ms. Jaibal's amendment, she said, well, you can't deport or detain U.S. citizens if you're ICE. Right? That's not your job.
Right.
I thought that was a slam dunk. Okay, they're not going to vote against. They voted against that. They voted it down. You put those two together, and they seem to be indifferent if ICE is actually detaining and deporting U.S. citizens. And guess what? That's not hypothetical. That happened last week, where there were U.S. citizen kids who were sent outside of the country. So we're entering a brave new world here with all of their Orwellian, Kafkaesque stuff. And we're just getting started, though, because we're going to now pin them down on everything. We're going to have amendments on everything to see where they really stand on the Constitution.
Shout out to Jamie Raskin for that lesson. And I am enthused at hearing the aggression and that they intend to pin them down on everything. But something just occurred to me in listening to him, because we just heard Jasmine Crockett talk about the level of privilege that they feel and the level of protection that they feel from opening these things up to American citizens, from essentially giving just about no oversight to the organizations that are looking to detain and deport people. Now, one thing that they would argue is that this is something that's being done on the level, and there is not any kind of racial discrimination that's going on. There's no kind of profiling that's going on. But you can't have both now, can you? Because one thing you got to tell me is, why is it that you, and by you I mean the GOP representatives, and I also mean the rank and file MAGAs. So why is it that you don't feel a level of incursion by opening up and giving them this level of power? And I'm also including the Don't Tread on Me hardcore militiaman MAGAs here as well, right? Because you guys are all about government oversight. So now we're giving them just about no oversight, but somehow you feel a level of protection. Now tell me why you feel that level of protection without it being racial. And by the way, before you answer, I just want to bring the Latino delegation, especially the Latinos for Trump. I just want to bring them in just to watch you answer that question.
Because we are working on reconciliation, meaning we are working on the budget. And so what we were saying in these amendments was, you can't fund this type of activity. That's all we were saying, because it's already illegal. So you wouldn't need to keep doing like the same law over and over. But we're like, okay, maybe we just need to take your coins away. And then maybe y'all will stop, because maybe you'll be like, well, I'm not going to get no money for doing this. So this is actually about the coins. Okay. So I want to clarify, because I know some of y'all may be confused. Like, well, if it's already the law, why y'all talking about it? Okay. It is the money side of it. I just want to make sure I make that clear.
Always follow the money.
Follow the money.
Always follow the money.
This is the amazing Becca Balance.
You're too kind.
From the great state of Vermont. What do you think about what's happening so far? We got a long night ahead of us, y'all.
They are willing to throw over all of our rights. They are willing to throw over the freedom and the liberty of their own people in order to worship at the feet of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They don't care about their constituents. They don't care about working people. It is about delivering more cash to people at the top. You follow the money and where it goes, and it's about kicking working people in the teeth, propping up people who don't need the advantages they already have, and meanwhile, creating a police state. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
With what we just saw in committee right there. They will not promise not to spend money to detain and deport American citizens.
Yeah.
Prove her wrong. Prove her wrong. That's the thing. It's one thing for you to object to it, GOP. Prove her wrong. I'll wait.
This couldn't be more clear.
This is all about doing whatever it is, allowing Donald Trump the latitude to do the things that he wants to do. This is my second markup for the day. My first was in oversight, and when I was there, I mean, the things that they were trying to do, they're trying to bust up unions. They are over there saying things like, you know what, we don't want federal workers to have the protections that they would normally have in being a federal worker. We need to make them all at will so that we can fire them whenever we want to. So essentially admitting that they know that what they did when they started firing everybody, they knew it was illegal. So now they are trying to change federal worker status so that they can do this stuff lawfully. Like, I'm telling y'all, this is absolutely insane. It is bad, bad, bad. But make sure that you don't just get on IG, listen to me. Make sure that you go and you educate somebody else, because we are in this position because of a lack of education, because we allowed ourselves to be played, or we allowed ourselves to be riled up about things that, frankly, we ain't never had no president that was trying to decide what kids can play on the playground. The president is supposed to do things like make sure that those kids can have food in their mouths, roofs over their heads, and food in their mouths. I think I may have already said that. Anyway, if that buzzing you hear means I gotta go vote. But I just wanted to check in with y'all. I appreciate y'all. We gonna keep fighting. The blue team got your back.
Now, to that point that she made towards the end, we're in this position because of a lack of education, but also a lack of communication. And so I tip my cap to dropping this Instagram live. I think that more of these kinds of communiques need to be sent to really be transparent about all the things that are going on behind closed doors. Is something that I have begged to see from the Democrats and the progressives, all the people that are trying to stand in the way of Trump's agenda. So this was good to see, as disturbing as the truths that came out of this were. And as far as the GOP are concerned, because I still stand by you proving her wrong, and I also stand by your answer to why you feel level of protection without it being racial, right? I'm still waiting on that, because we have seen you guys rubber stamp Donald Trump's agenda for the fear of his popularity and Elon Musk's money. And Elon Musk is certainly on his way out as the most unpopular man in America, and we are seeing marches on a regular basis in opposition to Trump. So I'm curious how long that resolve and that denial of far left activists is going to go. And when the story is told, you will go down with the administration. And no, I'm not trying to hear you didn't understand what was going on, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because we sent you the message.
There are 1,524,524 and 481. This is over 1 million, 1.5. Mr. Ron Kendall is the executive chairman emeritus at the National.
Why is MTG supporting Musk and Doge and the slashing of Medicaid, Social Security offices, libraries, and more? This is outrageous, from Sarah. Well, Sarah, unfortunately, you're being brainwashed by the news that you're watching.
This is coming from someone who clearly reads on a first grade level, so I don't know why she's trying to clown Sarah.
Look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Oh, so now you couldn't read it? That's going to be your excuse? That's where you're going with it? It's a pretty good excuse, I'll be honest. From her. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Now, I know how much y'all like to jump in and out, but don't forget to subscribe to the page, because I know a lot of you guys aren't subscribed. And another way to get the word out is to like the video.
Words can express the way I feel for you.
And yes, that includes those of you watching on television, although I recognize that might require a phone. And when you grab that phone, if you haven't already taken advantage of the discount that is still available, being as we're in the first month of our Patreon membership option, which is another option for those of you who want some of the extra content, some of the early access to the videos or the archives, all of that is available on the Patreon. And this is an excellent time because the first weekly newsletter, which is being offered as a part of that package, goes out this very week. So I'll see you guys over there in the community chat. And there hasn't been a single time that I've gone on that community chat and I haven't seen my girl Deshauna. So imagine my excitement when she sent me this. Oh, I absolutely love to see it. They threw the gauntlet down, Dank. I put up that picture of Dank, and now all of a sudden they coming for you. And not to be outdone, City Dawn sent me this one. I am so very appreciative of this kind of support. You can find all that you see and a whole lot more merch on my website, reesewaters.com. And once again, thank you guys for showing so much love.